This season has been so wild, y'all. In just one episode, my projection for this entire season has changed just like that. I mean, I just was not expecting this episode to end the way it did, but I am happy about it. Before we get into this episode, please take a moment to make sure you're subscribed as we finish off this crazy season. Now, let's dive in. So this episode opens up with the traitors in the turret, and of course, Carolyn and Danielle are fighting as per usual. Danielle is trying to get Britney added on as a traitor, as she should, but Carolyn is straight up refusing, as she should. Again, both these ladies are just doing what's best for their games right now, so I can't fault them for that. Danielle is swearing up and down that she's not going to betray Carolyn anymore, swearing that she wants to take her to the end and all that stuff, but I personally don't believe that for a second, and neither does Carolyn, because girl. So obviously Danielle just isn't going to get her way right now, but honestly, given how this whole entire episode played out, even if Britney did get recruited here, honestly, I could see things ending up the exact same way, with Carolyn going home. So the conversation then moves on to murder, and now the ladies are talking about who they should murder tonight. And in my opinion, it just has to be a guy, just because really only the ladies are being looked at as traitors right now. And I think the traitors figured that out too, because when they all go to breakfast the next morning, we all see that Sam has indeed been murdered. Right when he was starting to get the hang of the game too. Damn. I guess Sam was an okay choice to eliminate just because he was starting to catch on a little bit. But if it were me, the game player in me would want to go after Dylan. It just seems like Dylan is a little more astute with the game, you know, he's a little more with the shits. And even though Danielle was willing to get rid of him here, both of these ladies see Dylan as an ally, which I think speaks a lot to the great social game that he must be playing out there. And we don't really get to see a lot of social stuff on the show. Usually the conversations we see are more strategy related, but there is a reason why Dylan is still there, and I think he's starting to figure that out too.
I'm shocked I'm still here, which is the scariest and most vulnerable position to be in this game, because that means that someone is bringing me to the end because they'll know I'll be loyal. So that means someone I trust is a traitor.
Now, also during that breakfast, we do hear Gabby and Carolyn starting to whisper about Danielle. Mainly Gabby, because she's really starting to catch on that Danielle could be a traitor. And this whole time, Carolyn's just subtly nodding and agreeing. Now, I will give a shout out to Carolyn here because I did like the way she was pretty much letting Gabby do all the talking and just nodding her head and yes-manning her along. And at this point in the show, I'm starting to get very, very nervous for Danielle and her game, especially since other people around are starting to whisper about her too. But don't get it twisted, because Danielle's out there doing some work of her own all the same. We see her talking to Dolores, where she very, very subtly starts planting little seeds here and there about Carolyn. Now, she doesn't directly say Carolyn's name here. She just makes a little suggestion. And honestly, I'm kind of wondering if Danielle was maybe being a little bit too subtle here. Because I really don't know if Dolores truly understood what the hell Danielle was talking about, especially given her vote later. Like, sometimes it feels like Dolores is just playing this completely separate game from everybody else, but we're going to get to that later. Next up, we see Britney and Danielle having this little heart-to-heart where Britney is doing all this crying and stuff because she was afraid that Danielle could have been eliminated. Which kind of sort of threw me off, just because I had no idea that they had grown that close during this filming process. Like, it's definitely been explored on the show, but not to some huge extent, you know? See, it's stuff like this that makes me wish we just got more casual, social, day-to-day scenes with not really much strategy involved, you know? It would just be nice to see these friendships blooming instead of simply having them explained in the confessionals. Overall, what I got from this scene was that the guilt is just eating Danielle alive out there, which is really, really gonna set up what happens later on in the episode. So after all that, the players are now on to their next mission, and it's a pretty messy one. The players pretty much have to answer these trivia questions that only the traitors know the answer to, which can get very interesting because it leaves room for people to kind of suss out who knows the most, and it leaves room for a traitor to reveal themselves. So even though there were no shields in this mission, I loved how they added this premise to it. And it makes me wish they did more challenges where things like who's a traitor or faithful could be revealed. They also brought Parvati and Kate back to this challenge just to pretty much sip tea, talk shit, and host, which I thought was very cute and I enjoyed seeing them as well. So like I said, during this mission, things are gonna get very messy very fast. Danielle chooses to play this game a little bit more defensively and a little bit more subdued. She's not being the standout voice or the loudest person in the room, and she's even okay with some of the questions being wrong just to conceal herself. And it looks like Carolyn is out there doing pretty much the exact opposite. She's not afraid to go against the group by shouting out the correct answers or being the loudest voice in the room, nothing. It's like she's clearly the most informed person out there right now, and other people are starting to notice. So heading back to the castle, there is some genuine sus on Carolyn for the first time all season. And Danielle knows it. She knows that there was a ton of stuff said during that mission that pointed to Carolyn. And she even kind of sort of helped set all that up when they answered the questions the night before anyway. So right now, Carolyn and Danielle's games are really the only ones seriously being thrown out right now. We see Carolyn has been out there working, and it looks like she was able to get all the guys to come over to her side. But you know, Danielle is doing her thing too. She's out there gathering her people, trying to get them over into her corner. So going into the round table, at this point, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I was actually leaning more towards Danielle going home. But what I did know was that one of these traitors, sadly, were about to be banished. Well, sad for me and sad for them, but great for the faithfuls. During the round table, Carolyn comes in hot, calling out Danielle for having her name in her mouth yet again. But it was really just the exact same argument that she threw out at the round table a few episodes ago. That's probably my biggest complaint with Carolyn in this episode. Because Carolyn has so much more dirt on Danielle, but she's just not using it here. She's really just using the part that hurt Carolyn more and not the evidence that she's a traitor to everybody. So Danielle is just swatting away these accusations the same way she did the first time. Now, Danielle did have some new evidence against Carolyn. First of all, it was this mission that literally just happened, so that's super fresh in people's minds. Danielle also didn't come across as emotional. She seemed a little bit more prepared, and she had some good storytelling to go along with it. She actually kind of did it in this Boston Rob-esque way where she tells this big story and gives all this evidence and then points over to Carolyn as the traitor. It wasn't like the absolute perfect best case out there, but it was stronger than Carolyn's for sure, at least to me. So we get to the votes, and there are a couple odd ones out. Tom and Dolores, once again, are pretty much just throwing away their votes, not being able to see the hate or dislike for each other personally, which is annoying and frustrating to watch. But hey, for the traitors, if I was a traitor, I am keeping Tom and Dolores around as long as I can, okay? But when the votes are read, we do see that Carolyn has indeed been banished. Danielle was able to sway a few people at the round table, and that was that. Honestly, y'all, this whole episode just kind of took me by surprise. It was like a complete 180 from last time. Like last episode, I really did not see anybody clocking Carolyn at all. I even predicted that she could win this whole thing. Oops. But you know what? I'm not mad about it, okay? I'm actually happy to be wrong because that means that Danielle is the last traitor left standing, and that means that we have a recruitment coming up. And Danielle knows it too. That's why she had that dramatic ass fake reaction, okay?
God, you guys. God.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Don't you guys,
No,
I said it. I said it. I was gonna fight.
No, you did so good. You did so good.
She now has the opportunity to recruit another traitor, and we all know who that's going to be. Britney, of course. Now, they don't officially show Britney taking this offer. They kind of leave us at a cliffhanger here, but come on, we all know that Britney's going to take this deal, right? After all, the only other option is to leave the game, so Britney and Danielle being traitors together and running the table is literally my dream scenario, okay? I said it after last episode. But the only question is, will they both be able to make it to the end together? After all, they've both had some sus on them. They've both had votes thrown on them. So it's not going to be easy. But it's also not impossible. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Also, who do you think they should murder? The options are getting pretty slim, but if it were me, I would maybe go for somebody like Dylan just because he's a pretty good detective in the game and he's a guy, sorry. Or there's also the option to murder Tom and try to frame Dolores for it. But it's also like Tom just is not on to the traitors really at all right now, so he could be a good person to bring to the end too. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what's best for their games at this point. But whatever they choose, I'm excited to see what's going to happen next. Next episode, we're probably going to get a new twist, the seer power that could really mess up someone's game. So it's really all a mess, but I'm excited for that too. Of course, I'll be back here next week to recap the next episode with you all. But until then, bye.